it's February. Wow. February 1st, 2022 issues and updates. Gary Schmidt, our county administrator, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. All commissioners are present today on Zoom. We will start with the consent agenda. These first items, you are sitting as the Board of County Commissioners for Clackamas County. We will start with county administration, and Shannon, if you could bring in Martine, please. And I see she's here. So one moment, please, commissioners. All right, Martine, hello. We're starting with the consent agenda, county administration, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Equity and Inclusion Office and Metro for financial support of the contract with the Coalition of Communities of Color for Racial Research Justice Study. Metro will contribute $15,000 to Clackamas County for this effort. No county general funds are involved. Martine Koblenz is the County Equity and Inclusion Officer. Martine, please go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners. So yes, we are here just to, Metro is contributing $15,000, similar to the other IGAs that I came to you before. There's no general funds involved. This is reimbursing us for the project, the racial research justice work that is underway right now. So I'm here if there are any questions that you might have on that.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? Mark, your hand is up.
Yes, Martine, on the pledges from the cities for, I think it was 150K, how far off are we in getting that total amount in?
So with this Metro contribution, we are at around the 150K. Everybody, I think this is the final IGA to get us to that midway point.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, very good. Commissioners, any further questions? Gary, do we entertain a motion on this or just?
No, we will add it to this Thursday's business meeting agenda and all the items here today. So
thank you, Martine. Appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next, Shannon, would you bring in Rod Cook, please? We'll do health, housing, human services items next. Wait just a moment, please, commissioners. Hello, Raj. We're on health, housing, human services, consent agenda item request. Rod Cook is the Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a federal subrecipient grant agreement amendment with the Father's Heart Street Ministry to continue the non-congregate hotel shelter program. This amendment adds $69,905 for a new total maximum contract of $433,365, funded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Emergency Solutions Grant COVID #2. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, and I don't have the Father's Heart on my list. I'm sorry, Jerry, I don't.
I'm sorry too. We will remove that from the item. Let's start with number 2 then, or go to number 2. Approval of a change order for the Sandy Health Center project with Banlan Construction. This change order adds $122,931.13 for a new contract total of $5,005,406.74, funded through budgeted Health Center Division fund balance. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Gary, I'm gonna have to ask your permission to come back in about whenever you have time for me, because I do not have any of these items in front of me and I'm not sure what is happening. So I'm gonna my staff and come back to you. Okay.
We'll come back to you, Rod. No worries.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. No issue. No worries at all. All right, Shannon, let's move to finance. Next on the list, please bring in Elizabeth Comfort and Jeff Jorgensen. And one moment, commissioners, while we transition here. All right, there's Elizabeth Comfort, Director of Finance. And one moment for Jeff. And Jeff Jorgensen, Facilities Director at the County and Finance. All right, under Finance, consent agenda, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement for the funding and operation of the Oregon State University Extension Education Programs in Clackamas County. The district's annual operations average $3 million a year, which is paid to Clackamas County, Oregon State University, and other vendors. This is funded through the district levy for the Extension Service and 4-H District. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Yes, this IGA is a long time coming. We've been working on this for quite a few months. We have Leah Sundquist will be presenting later on the agenda this morning, representing the 4-H District. But this morning I'm representing Clackamas County, as we are one of the 3 partners in this IGA with OSU and the 4-H Extension District. To provide these services to our county. We, as the county, we provide the facility and the land for these programs. And as Gary mentioned, their operating budget is about $3 million. We do have a reserve for future expansion, which is also adopted in their budget as a reserve. And I'd be open to any questions.
Elizabeth, this is for program development and ongoing services to the community, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions from my commissioners? Any objections? Seeing none.
All right. Item 2, approval of a contract with D. Paulo's Painting for Red Soils Campus Exterior Painting Services. Total cost is $175,000, funded through budgeted capital improvement project funds, some of which do include general funds. Jeff, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning, just requesting approval of this contract that will take care of painting 10 buildings on the Red Soils campus up here. Just one of the many capital projects we have for the $175,000. Most of the single level buildings that are not masonry block. Start doing the painting basically beginning of April as time allows, but that's just for this year's. It's approximately 10 buildings up here.
Wow, what colors?
The same colors. It's just I'm getting refreshed colors. Unless you
get
guys
it.
want something else.
No, hey, I'm not. Just curious.
No, the same color.
Any objections to painting? Seeing none.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth and Jeff. Next, we'll move to juvenile. Shannon, if we can bring in Christina McMahon, please. Wait just a moment, please, for Christina to come in. All right, hello, Christina. Christina is the Juvenile Director of Clackamas County. The consent agenda item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, acting by and through the Oregon Health Authority to provide funding to offset the cost for expunction of juvenile records. Agreement maximum value is $241,607.80, funded through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Christina.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Commissioners. Chair Smith, Christina McMahon, Juvenile Department Director. Happy to be here because the state, when this legislation went through, we worked really collaboratively with the Oregon Youth Authority to try to get reimbursement for the counties. This has taken several years to happen. So instead of having an unfunded mandate, we are actually going to be compensated for the work that we're doing based on this policy change. So the policy change is the law will now allow juvenile departments to initiate expunction. In fact, we're required to do this for low-level offenders. So for example, young people that are participating in our diversion programs across the county, young people that are on informal supervision for certain types of crimes. So in my opinion, this is an excellent policy direction because sometimes these lower level youth who got referred to our department ended up having barriers, like, for example, not being able to enlist in the military because of things lingering on their juvenile records. So the rest of the expunction statute for more serious crimes, young people that have been on probation formally with the juvenile court, has not been changed. This really applies to young people that have been handled outside of a formal court process or whose cases have been dismissed and the court saw fit to do that. So we are excited to see this happen. We don't know, it's a reimbursement model. So it just went into effect on January 1. So we don't have a lot of data to go by. And then of course we have 2 years of really skewed data because of COVID. So my conservative estimate is this will bring in approximately $50,000 a year in revenue to help fund our operations.
Any questions or concerns for Christina? Sonia, your hand's up.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to understand as to offset the cost, but what will the funds actually be used for? Is it going to be staff or what is it?
Well, we had to give them a lot of data. Nobody really knew how to fund this because every county has different compensation and benefit packages. So the folks that put this forward came up with this per expunction rate of $206. So we are able to use that to put right back to offset our general fund expenses for the people who do that work in my department.
Yes, so how I understand it then is you have people that know how to do it, to get those records expunged, to get that process through the courts, and this is just money that comes to help. That answers my question. Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
See no other questions. Thank you, Christina. Next, Transportation and Development. Shannon, if you'd please bring in Dan Johnson. We'll wait just a moment, commissioners.
Hearing none.
Yes, we're waiting for Dan Johnson to come in the room here. All right, Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Next, Transportation and Development consent agenda request. 1, approval of a board order vacating a portion of 79th Avenue right-of-way, County Road number 3225. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you so much, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. A little bit of history for you. 79th Avenue was dedicated July 3rd of 1913. We, as the county, have received a petition from an individual who has approved plans to realign, extend, and construct 79th Avenue southerly to Johnson Creek Boulevard. The realignment will leave the southerly 270 feet of the 40-foot wide right-of-way portion of 79th Avenue unneeded. The petition to vacate has been filed with a determined fee and acknowledged signatures of owners of 100% of the properties abutting the public property proposed to be vacated. All abutting property owners in this instance have signed the consent to vacate form and have been acknowledged by the proper authority. We've coordinated with utility providers in the area to ensure that their facilities remain protected, though this right-of-way will be vacated, and have received no objections. So we are here to request this board order be put forward on consent agenda for this week. I will note that we would propose one minor amendment to that board order. It's not a substantive change, but in coordination with Water and Environment Services yesterday, they had some minor language around additional authorizations and notifications and indemnity and liability around the second portion of the board order. It is further ordered. There's a long section in there about the rights for existing utility owners. Minor language. We have county counsel who they have reviewed it. I have Nate Boderman available if you have specific questions, but it is no significant amendment to the proposal before you today.
Any questions for Dan on this? Any objections? Seeing none. Thank you, Dan.
And so will you please send the updated staff report to Shannon to post online and also send it to the board so they make sure they have the correct version. Thank you. All right, item 2. Dan, do you want anyone else in the room for this next item or just you?
Which one is this?
The sheriff's office vehicle.
I'll do it, and then if questions arise, we'll ask.
Okay, great. Item 2, authorization to purchase one current model year Lenco Bearcat armored vehicle from Lenco Armored Vehicles through the HGAC cooperative contract for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Total cost is $331,377, funded through county general funds, and it has already been budgeted through the Sheriff's Office and Transportation and Development. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you so much. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office has requested that Clackamas County Fleet, which is a part of DTD, purchase a current model year Lenco Bearcat armored vehicle. Please don't ask me any questions about that. I have no idea what that is, but we can add somebody to this meeting who will know if you have questions about that. Approval of the purchase is being requested under the local contract review board rule, authority for cooperative procurement. The purchase will be made off a cooperative contract through Lenco Armored Vehicles. A notice of intent to purchase this one vehicle was issued on January 3rd, 2020, and no comments were received at the time of closing January 10th, 2022. So with that, we look forward to put forward this proposal for consent agenda. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Dan, go ahead and bring somebody in that can answer questions because I see 2 commissioners have their hands up.
Mike Palmer, Shannon. Mike Palmer, please.
Bring them in now and we'll take our time on this. Paul Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, I'll wait for the,
Who else?
Mark,
Yeah,
your
so
hand up.
if we have budgetary questions, Nancy Artman is available. If we have operational questions, I believe Lieutenant Clint Pierce is available as well.
Bring them both in, please. Thank you. Mark, did you want to say something while he's bringing those folks in?
Dan, I got a question. The sheriff's department already has an armored vehicle. Is this one gonna replace it or are they gonna go to 2?
Well, my apologies. Within the amendment, the vehicle will be assigned to the Sheriff's SWAT division and will replace aging vehicles that are currently assigned to the SWAT division. I'm not sure if Mike wants to add to that.
Yes, you do, Mike. You want to explain why we're purchasing this?
Yes, that's correct. We're looking at adding an additional unit which will replace an existing piece of equipment. The challenge that we have, and you'll see on your screen now, Lieutenant Clint Pierce, who's our SWAT commander, can probably discuss a couple of the issues that we're having with some of the vehicles. And then Dan and through Fleet, we've been attempting to get these operational vehicles ready, and Click could talk more on it. But when these responders are responding to these calls, they really don't have the time and ability to wait for either a dead battery or some kind of mechanical malfunction with these units. And that's what we're seeing is the equipment. It's not really a mileage issue because they don't travel a lot of miles. It's more about a wear and tear and maintenance issue. So that's where the request is coming for a new piece of equipment. And maybe SWAT Commander Pierce can discuss this a little bit further.
Go ahead, Lieutenant Pierce.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, so right now our current situation is that our newest piece of armored equipment was manufactured in 2005. So it's getting older and it's starting to have some issues. Like Mike said, it's not really a mileage issue, but it's more like just an age issue. But the other thing is that this new vehicle will provide us with capabilities that we don't currently have. It will transports more people. It provides more safety. It'll let us effect rescues that we right now can't do. Recently, there was an incident out in the city of Malala where an individual was shooting a 50 caliber rifle out his window. Right in town. And we had a couple of our deputies pinned down behind large trees in the area. And none of our equipment that we have now would let us effectively rescue them safely. So this vehicle is more than just replacing older equipment that we have. It also provides us with capabilities that we don't currently have.
So is this vehicle with rubber tires a street legal truck type? I'm trying to envision in my mind what this is.
Yes, ma'am. It's a large, like box truck looking vehicle.
Okay.
It has rubber tires. It's ideal for situations like last winter when we had that big ice storm and we activated the National Guard to help us deliver generators and water and stuff like that to people that were without power and trapped in their houses. That's a vehicle that we could also use for things like that, not just tactical situations.
And how many people can go in this? You said it's bigger to allow more people.
Yeah, it'll fit about 12 people.
Oh, wow. And were we gonna bring in Nancy Artman? Somebody's
not-
working on that. Paul, you have your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, question, what, Mike, I heard you say two things. You said additional and you also said replace. So is it, which is it? Is it, one's gonna go away and this is gonna replace it? We're gonna dispose of the older vehicle?
That's the intent, is to ultimately get rid of one of the pieces of equipment. We're just not sure exactly which one, because they're, as Clint mentioned, they're all a little bit different in their capabilities. For example, the V150, and again, if we had pictures, we could show you the differences, but we have vehicles that can go into a larger terrain or more difficult terrain areas, but they don't allow for the volume of individuals and responders to take place. So what we're trying to do is decide exactly which one of the pieces of equipment that ultimately would be transitioned out of the fleet for this new vehicle. But it's really based upon, once we get this vehicle and test it, know exactly what all of its capabilities are. So there isn't one piece of equipment that we're looking at getting rid of yet, but we will be replacing, this will be a replacement vehicle for one of those units.
And how many units do you currently have? I know I've seen some of them from time to time. How many like vehicles are there like this?
There's really only one that's like this, but there are three, correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant, but I think there are three pieces of armored vehicles that we have: the MRAP, the V150, and the current Bearcat.
Yeah, that's correct. The V150 is surplus military equipment that's was made during the Vietnam era, like in the 60s. It's a amphibious armored vehicle that currently has a bad motor, so it's inoperable. And then the MRAP is a larger armored vehicle that was manufactured to be IED resistant. So it's very likely that the V150 would be the one that we get rid of.
Okay, in my course of life, I can, in my experience in, in the field, it's not uncommon to put a lot of maintenance effort in a vehicle, whether it's used or not. And frankly, I think sometimes some vehicles are more prone that the less they're used, the more maintenance is required. I know that sometimes that sounds backwards, but, and not likely. But when you don't have a high level of utilization, you want something that's turnkey, ready to go, that requires a lot of maintenance. So I'm just kind of concerned about having numerous vehicles with that kind of requirement, just trying to thin down our inventory, and of course the space it takes to use these things, and whether or not they're sheltered or they're unsheltered is also a factor as far as being out in the elements.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there. I was just going to say that that's absolutely correct. You need to maintain your current maintenance levels all the time on these vehicles. Like I said, one of them, the engine is just simply burned up in it, and it's not a maintenance issue. It just needs a whole new motor. But aside from that, it's just outdated and really not useful for what we need right now. And then more than just the capabilities of this new vehicle, it's important that we have enough armored vehicles to deal with what's expected out of us in today's tactical realm with like barricaded subjects and stuff. I can tell you that a few months ago, Washington County Sheriff's Office had a guy that was shooting at them for 2 days while they surrounded his house and dealt with him as a barricaded subject. And they had to have 5 pieces of armor there the entire time just to keep themselves safe while they negotiated with and tried to get this guy to come out of his house after he shot at mental health care workers and shot at them for a couple days. So I agree that you don't want to have too many vehicles sitting around not getting used, but you do need multiple vehicles for situations that come up like that.
All right, thank you.
Very interesting conversation. Dan, your hand is up. You're on mute. There you go.
That's my old school hand raise there. You like that? Yeah,
I recognized it, yes.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So I just want to confirm for the board, and Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong. Delivery of this vehicle will be after the end of this fiscal year. It'll be next fiscal year, correct?
That is my understanding. It will take a while to build that vehicle.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for the record. So
I
thank
was
you.
going to ask about that. Where does it come from? Or what manufacturer is it?
The actual manufacturer is Lenco. That's the company.
Okay. Got it. All
And
right.
that's that is the manufacturer of the current Bearcat we have, which is a smaller version.
Do we have any idea how many times a year, month, or whatever we use these vehicles? And the second question, do we help other jurisdictions with these vehicles that don't have them available?
Yeah, I can answer that. We use our armored vehicles approximately 35 to 40 times a year. And we have mutual aid agreements with Washington County. So we cover for them during their times when they have staffing issues, or they're all out on training or something like that, or they just have some big incident where they need help. And then sometimes we help other smaller agencies that don't have any tactical team or any tactical capabilities. So yes, we do.
City of Oregon City Police Department?
Yeah, they're part of our interagency SWAT team. So we help everybody on our interagency team supports us getting a new armored vehicle because they have people on our team. Oregon City, Westland, Lake Oswego, they all support our request to get this new armored vehicle, along with Clackamas Fire. I have a letter of support from them just because they have medical professionals that are on our team also. So they want them protected when we go into hot zones and things that are dangerous.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the presenters on this? Any objections to this moving forward? See none. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you all. Next, disaster management. Shannon, if you'd bring in Daniel, please. I'll wait just a moment for him. All right, Daniel Neibauer, Interim Director of Disaster Management. Disaster Management Consent Agenda Request 1, approval to apply for Oregon Health Authority funds for a refrigerated trailer for emergency decedent storage. Total cost is estimated at $120,000. The Oregon Health Authority will cover costs on a reimbursement basis. County general funds will be used up front, but the funds will be 100% reimbursed by the Oregon Health Authority. Daniel, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've had several funeral homes and hospitals that are reaching near capacity on decedent storage, and Oregon Health Authority has a grant which we can use to get some decedent storage, which we will use, hopefully not have to use, but use if needed, and then also be able to maintain that capacity in case we have any future incidents which would require additional storage. Any questions?
No. Mark, your hand is up.
Yes, it seems to me that this type of trailer would require additional burden on your disaster management section. I mean, would this become a liability for your disaster management people?
The medical examiners will, which fit into disaster management, will be using it, and we can budget to maintain it for a few $100s a year. We have the Silver Oaks is already set up to power the unit and do it. So it'll be a little bit more that we have to track, but we will partner with fleet and facilities to make sure that it's taken care of and ready to use if it is ever needed.
But when it is needed, who in disaster management is going to manage it?
We'll be using medical examiners our medical examiner staff, and then some mutual aid contracts to staff and do that.
So you're comfortable with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other, oh, Paul, your hand.
Yeah, use my words carefully. What is the storage capacity for subjects?
I think for that is 16. I'll have to confirm. It's either 12 or 16.
Okay,
I
thank
can get
you.
that number too.
Okay. Is this a multi-use trailer?
No, it'll be used for one thing.
Okay. Okay, any objections to this request? Hearing none, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll return now to Health, Housing, Human Services. Shannon, if you bring in Rod Cook, please. Hi, Rod.
Hello.
Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a federal subrecipient grant agreement amendment with the Father's Heart Street Ministry to continue the non-congregate hotel shelter program. This amendment adds $69,905 for a new total maximum contract value of $433,365, funded by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Emergency Solutions Grant COVID number 2. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this amendment would add shelter support services to individuals and households housed in hotel-based shelter. They provide case management, client food, transportation, and other eligible direct client needs.
Any questions or objections? Hearing none. Oh, Mark, your hand is up.
Rod, this extra 69,000, now is this going to actually pay for hotel rooms or for administration for overseeing that function?
Based on what I have in front of me, this is for the services. So the nonprofit who provides services to those clients, it would go to fund it's probably their staff. It's probably all of the above, their staff for case management, client food, transportation, other eligible direct client needs. So it would be all that service array may be funded with these funds.
And the new maximum total of $433,000, that's from now going back how far? How long ago?
We started this with the COVID, so we're probably about a year or two into this program at this point.
Okay.
Any objections to this request? Seeing none.
Item 2, approval of a change order for the Sandy Health Center project with Banlan Construction. This change order adds $122,931.13 for a new contract total of $5,005,406.74, funded through budgeted Health Center Division fund balance. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, commissioners, and I'll be quick with the list, but the add-ons were the pharmacy company Genoa required a separate thermostat system in one part of the building. Furnish and install facilities management required intrusion and access systems. Build hard lid ceiling, door hardware changes for staff, light fixture and move outlets. Furnish and install City of Sandy required flashing and rivets to the masonry edge. Furnish and install lock sets at therapy rooms, changes for staff. So that's what the $122,931 would cover.
Any questions or objections? Mark, your hand is up.
Yes, Rod, on that 5,005,000, how are we doing on staying within budget for that project?
Well, this change order would raise it by $122,931. Otherwise, we're within the 5 million, but that's with this change that we're asking for today.
Okay.
So to clarify, with the change order, we're still under budget. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Contractors love change orders, love them because they really make bank on it. What is the change order again, please?
It's for 122,931, and you want me to list out those items
Yes.
again? Okay, the items were a thermostat. The pharmacy company requires a thermostat system for their, to keep certain medications at certain temperatures. So that was new. Furnish and install facilities management required intrusion and access systems. Build hard lid ceiling, door hardware changes for staff, light fixtures, and move outlets. Furnish and install City of Sandy required flashing and rivets to masonry edge. Furnish and install lock sets in therapy at therapy rooms, and that was a request from the staff.
Okay. Okay, any questions or comments for the presenter on this item? Any objections? Seeing none, thank you.
Item 3, approval of the 2022 amended and restated county-based services revenue agreement with Health Share of Oregon for public health and behavioral health care and services. The agreement value is $3,931,863, funded through the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rob.
Agreement addresses the following work: regional perinatal continuum of care, tobacco prevention and cessation, and implementation of a community health assessment and community health improvement plan, and behavioral health promotion, peer services, a 24-hour crisis telephone line, and additional crisis services.
Any objections? Hearing none.
Item 4, approval of the 2022 revenue contract and business associate agreement with Care Oregon for behavioral health services. Agreement value is $1,923,346, funded through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Okay, this contract provides funds for the intensive care coordination for adults and children, substance abuse disorder care coordination, wraparound services, choice services, and administrative support.
Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none. Thank you, Rod.
Item 5, approval of an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with Northwest Family Services for homeless shelter services and rent assistance. Amendment adds $100,000 for a new total of $757,500, funded through Emergency Solutions Grant. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this funding is expected to assist approximately 60 homeless families with shelter services and rapid rehousing during the program year.
Any objections? Nope. Go ahead.
All right, 6, approval of a drive change fund award agreement with Portland General Electric for the purchase of an electric vehicle to provide services for seniors, persons with disabilities, and low-income households, funded by Portland General Electric through the Oregon Clean Fuels Program for $212,500. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Ron.
Yes, agreement would enhance electric vehicle options in rural areas of Clackamas County that provide services to seniors, persons with disabilities, and low-income households. Grant provides funding for one electric hybrid vehicle that provides services to persons with disabilities and low-income households.
Questions? Sonia, are you trying to get online?
Yeah, thank you. So, wow, $212,000 for one electric vehicle. I don't know if anybody else, like their eyeballs popped out on that, but I'm just interested as why it's so much. Or is that just a, I don't know. Enlighten me.
Yeah, I would have to get back to you. I have not had any dealings with electric vehicles. If it's a van, I could see where it would cost that much. If it's a single vehicle, I think I'm with you. I don't think the whole 212 would be used towards that. So I can get back to you because I don't have detailed information on, and I know we go through procurement through the county to get that. So, and we'd probably use some contract that the state already has and piggyback on there. So I'm sure we can come back to you with the price points and give you more detail if you need to know exactly how that's being spent out.
Commissioner Savas, your hand is up.
Yeah, I would love to get some more background on the vehicle type, the capacity, you know, what the charging, if there are adequate charging stations or charging hardware that comes with or not, or if there's any anticipated requirement that we actually additionally at a later date or later contract have to provide charging facilities or hardware. I've been very interested in electric vehicles and electrification, and you know, I've purchased electric vehicles myself, so I know the pitfalls, the upside and the downside. I'm still an advocate of buying them, but I think we need to be cautious. So I certainly want to learn more about this purchase.
Okay.
I think, Gary, we need to pull this item and review it next time.
Yep.
I have the same concerns as my other two commissioners on this. That's a huge amount of money. So in the new federal transportation package that is coming, will allow for 650 electric vehicle charging stations in the region. And a wise person told me once that, you know, I really don't look at what government's doing. I tend to look at what the private sector is doing. And the private sector is turning out electric vehicles of all kinds, just right and left. Even pickups. Portland General Electric bought a bunch of pickups that are electrically charged, which I kind of find that odd if you're in a power outage and you take an electric pickup out to fix your stuff. I don't understand that, but maybe, you know, it's not in my pay grade. This is horribly expensive. I do think that the price of electric vehicles will probably come down, quite possibly, as more of them become readily available. So Rod, if you could do some more due diligence for us and bring this back later.
Yes, and real quickly, staff did run in some detail, but we will bring additional detail back to you, but it's an ADA equipped electric conversion high roof Ford e-Transit. So that's
why
what I
does
have.
it have to be electric?
Well, it's PGE, so I'm sure that's what they're granting. So there'd be use of electric vehicles. I mean, I'm sure that's their federal program or their program, but I'll get you more information because you know, I think it's good for all of us to take a good look at this before we would proceed on anything like this. So
Thank you.
we'll bring them back.
Sonia, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just confused, and maybe it's because I'm just not reading it correctly, but I'm not quite sure. I understand it's a relationship, an agreement with PGE, but I'm not sure exactly where the money's coming from. Are these state dollars? I mean, how's this all working? I like the idea of having us have equipped vehicles for the rural areas. Oh my gosh, we need that in such a huge way in our transportation. Supporting people, now I can't think of reaching people is such a great program. Just knowing a little bit more about this, I think would be really good for us to understand in all these relationships, because PGE is a very important partner for us.
Yes, definitely. And you talk about this is supposed to be for rural areas. Is that right? I don't see a charging station south of Oregon City in entire South County and maybe east. So I have some heartburn if this is supposed to be for rural. I'm sure it's gonna be used for everything, but we don't have these charging stations out here. So I'm kind of not getting it, but maybe you can convince me. Okay.
Yeah, we'll certainly look into this, and because I'm intrigued as myself, so we'll go back and do some good study on this and come back to you with a lot more information.
Yeah, thank you, Rod.
Okay, we're pulling this item. You will come back to you next week. Moving on, item 7, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the North Clackamas School District to provide kindergarten partnership innovation services in North Clackamas County. Agreement value is $76,915, funded through the Oregon Early Learning Division. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this agreement would provide kindergarten innovation services to children and families living in Clackamas County, including providing culturally responsive, evidence-based early learning programming and workshops to children and families to support a smooth transition into kindergarten and to strengthen connections and collaborations between early care and education sector system.
Any questions or objections for the presenter? Mark, your hand is up.
Rod, is this something that the North Clackamas School District has requested?
Yes, I'm sure that, for them, let me see, this part, this probably went through a procurement process. I mean, typically that's what we would do. And they would have been one of the ones asking for these funds.
Okay.
Martha?
So is there a site? I guess I'm just trying to get to the nitty gritty of it. Is there going to be a site where these services are delivered? Is it going into existing preschool and kindergarten classes? I mean,
I'd have to get you more information, but it's typically when I was involved in that division, and North Clackamas would do this type of work, it would be on their campus, typically in the schools that needed it the most is where they would cite these, and you'd see it blended. You'd have kindergarten classes around it, but you'd have the specialty classes mixed in the school.
and what would the specialty classes be, Ron?
Well, this is where they're going to add this. This is like preschool. Think of a elementary school, but you have a preschool class that's embedded inside the school. So that gets the kids and the teachers and the parents used to going to school, integrating their services and resources. So it's kind of like it's like preschool, but embedded in a school.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Good program.
Paul?
Yeah, Rod, when you're researching that, if you could find out how many children we anticipate serving with these dollars, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none.
Okay, item 8, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas County Children's Commission to provide kindergarten partnership innovation services in Clackamas County. Agreement value is $76,915, funded through the Oregon Early Learning Division. No county general funds are involved. Rod, go ahead.
Okay, so this is the exact same program, just a different nonprofit. Oh, it looks, did my picture leave you? Okay,
Yes.
Video, sorry. Same program as North Clackamas, but this one is off of River Road, the Children's Commission. I think we did some other work there, and some of you may have been at their grand opening. That one is an old church that's been, remodeled or redesigned to house an early learning program, and they have multiple types of programs in that building as well. But same services, same program, just in a different area of the county.
Any objections to this? Seeing none.
Item 9, approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Tudos Juntos to enhance substance use prevention training in the rural communities of Clackamas County. This amendment adds $12,000 for a new maximum value of $252,000, funded through marijuana tax revenue that is coming through the county general fund. But it is not property taxes, it's marijuana tax revenue. Go ahead, Rob.
Yes, and the primary goals will be to increase awareness of marijuana and other drug effects, incorporate anti-marijuana campaigns, and provide case management for at-risk youth.
Any objections? Seeing none.
Item 10, approval of an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, acting by and through the Oregon Health Authority for operation as the local public health authority for Clackamas County. This amendment adds $151,533 for a new not to exceed contract value of $10,504,200.14. Funded is provided by the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, this would allow Clackamas County Public Health Division to provide public health related services to residents such as HIV prevention services, tobacco prevention and education, and women, infant, and children program, which is typically known as the WIC program.
Any objections to this? Mark, your hand is up.
Rod, is that for calendar year 2022 or what period of time is that covering?
This would be effective October 21 to, it continues to June 30, 2021.
So about 9 months worth of coverage.
Yes, this looks like, based on the dates that are here, is one of those things where the state is paying us for services already rendered, is what it really looks like to me.
All right, Rod.
I think that's the way it works, Rod, yeah. Any objections? See none?
Item 11, last one, approval of an amendment to a grant with Northwest Housing Alternatives for home-based program operations and client financial assistance. This amendment adds $115,000 for a new contract total value of $347,316.42. This is funded with county general funds, and it is already budgeted in H3S. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, the amendment provides client financial assistance, program case management and administration. Northwest Housing Alternatives provides financial assistance to families and individuals who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. Northwest Housing Alternatives also provides financial assistance to low-income families and individuals to access affordable housing or remain stably housed.
Any objections? Seeing none, thank you, Rod.
Okay, Rod, thank you very much. We're still on the consent agenda, almost done. Next, Chair, if you would convene the board as the County Extension and 4-H Board, please.
Yes, I will. I will now recess the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Clackamas County Extension and 4-H District.
All right, Shannon, would you please bring in Leah Sundquist and Elizabeth Comfort for this item? We'll pause just a moment for them to come in the room. All right, Elizabeth Comfort again is the County Finance Director. Leah Sundquist is the Project Manager for Clackamas County for the OSU Extension Office here in the county. So again, you're sitting now as the board of the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H District. The consent agenda item, approval of an intergovernmental agreement for the funding and operation of the Oregon State University Extension Education Programs in Clackamas County. District's annual operations average $3 million paid to Clackamas County, Oregon State University, and other vendors. This is funded entirely through the district levy. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth and Leah, go ahead.
Chair, Commissioners, with me is Leah Sundquist. She is our county liaison with the 4-H district from OSU. And I've gotten to work with her over the last several months and Nate Lerman putting this IGA together. So as Gary shared, the 4-H taxing district is the one that is receiving the funds for the operations. And Leah, did you have anything you want to add?
Sure. Good morning, board. I'm Leah Sundquist. I'm glad to present this IGA. We've been working on it for about a year now. The last IGA that was approved was in 2014. So we have made some changes in it and it has gone through both legal channels and been approved for your final approval. We take pride in providing the research-based education, and I wanted to let you know that our 4-H program has grown this year, even though we've been battling the COVID. We have 743 youth in the program that have just registered, and 237 adults and leaders that are running the program, and they're providing education via Zoom. And so we've also expanded our Juntos program. North Clackamas School District, after we did our welcome event, came to us and wants to establish the Juntos program in all 4 of their high schools. They're going to fund the event or the staffing of that, and we'll provide the program. So we're going to try to expand in a few other school districts as well. We've also assisted with with everybody's KN95 mask distribution, wildfire recovery, agriculture, animal evacuation, and did a warming center for you during the ice storm. And our agricultural community is working hard with our farming areas, and our small farms program is growing. And so I'd like to be able to say that we are continuing to provide our community with the needs that they present to us. As we know, we've also got a huge forestry youth and natural resources program out at Hopkins Demonstration Forest. And we have a new Shank forest that's been donated. So we are expanding as best we can. So we appreciate the funding through the levy and the service district.
That's great. You're doing wonderful work, Leah. And the numbers are just outstanding. You say your small farms program is growing, and that is in along with the board's goal to increase our farmable acres in Clackamas County. And I'd like to hear more about that, but maybe at a different time. Any questions for the presenters on this item? I see no objections. I see no questions. I just want to really thank you for stepping up. And I think you've made a big difference to the program, and you bring a lot of energy. And I expect that we'll be doing great things with Extension.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it, Gary, on this one.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Leah. Next chair, if you would convene the board, is the Development Agency Board.
Yes, I will now adjourn as the Clackamas County Extension and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. And convene as, I will now recess as a Board of County Commissioners and convene as a development agency.
Thank you, Chair. Shannon, please bring in Dan Johnson.
I will do that. I accidentally moved Marshall from the meeting, and I am bringing him back. My apologies for that. He should be joining us momentarily.
Well, I've had a few computer glitches myself today, so we'll just wait.
Howdy.
Hey, Mark, you're back.
So sorry, Commissioner. Technology issue we've corrected.
Problem.
All right, Commissioners, you are now sitting as the Development Agency Board of Clackamas County. This is a consent agenda item for the Development Agency. Approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights-of-way, easements, and fee property for the Southeast Linwood Avenue Improvement Project and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions. The right-of-way budget for the project is $1,035,000 and is included within the $7,720,000 total project budget. This is funded by the Clackamas County Development Agency. No county general funds are involved. Dan, go ahead.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. These are not new to you. You are familiar with these. These are the first steps with any capital project. This declaration basically allows our right-of-way individuals and staff to go out and start good faith negotiations with property owners along any county project. This is allowed under Oregon Revised Statute and Federal Uniform Act requirements. A local government agency is authorized to declare these resolutions, essentially allowing these negotiations to take place in advance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I guess I should affirm to you, Chair and Commission. Again, it notes condemnation actions, etc. This is not enacting any condemnation action at this point in time. Those are if and when that came to that point in time, we would come forward to the board for future discussion.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Savas. Paul, you're on mute.
I'm trying to get an idea of how much land here. That's a lot of money. Is there frontage, or is it actually depth into a property? Can you kind of give me some scale here?
It's multiple properties. And so it's basically, this is not a greenfield project. It's a project within a current urbanized area. And so it's a situation where you have a number of residential properties that are there. And so it's the number of properties and the number of negotiations that take place that are associated with that value. I can get you more detailed information if you'd like to see the actual right-of-way files or areas. If you'd like to take a look at that, we'd be glad to provide you that information.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need the detail now. I'm okay with moving forward, but I would certainly like to better understand the project. Is it the nature of is it sidewalks that we're trying to build?
It is corridor improvements, sidewalks, pedestrian improvements, things of that nature. Yes.
All right, thank you.
This is basically that area, Paul, that we've talked about in the past. That's north of Lot Whitcomb School, up in that area, that corridor. So we've discussed that in the past to some extent.
Thank you, Dan. Any objections to this moving forward? Seeing none.
Right, thank you, Dan. Chair, if you now reconvene the board as the Board of Commissioners, please.
I will now adjourn as the Development Agency and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank
Gary.
you, Chair Smith. All right, so just a time check. We are 20 minutes behind when we were to start the policy session on American Rescue Plan Act funds. On the issues list, the climate communities update, this has to happen today. There's a deadline today. So Chair, how would you like to sequence things? Do the climate update and then do ARPA?
Yes.
We can extend into the lunch break. I can postpone something till tomorrow. What would you prefer, Chair?
Well, I think we need to do the climate update since we're on the hard deadline for that, and we can certainly start the ARPA discussion. Commissioners, are you wanting to work through lunch? Is that okay with you? We can take a break maybe after the climate. What's your preference? Sonia, your hand's up.
So I am booked up over lunchtime.
Oh, okay. So why don't we do this then? This was unforeseen. Let's do the climate update, and Gary, we can carry ARPA over till tomorrow.
Yes, we'll make it fit tomorrow. How about that, Commissioners?
Yeah, let's start with ARPA tomorrow, and then we can go into the rest of what we need to do.
Fantastic. We'll do that. To the audience here, I apologize, but we're going to have the ARPA discussion tomorrow, Wednesday, February 2nd. I'll figure out the timing. We'll post it online. We'll fit this in with the other two existing sessions, and we'll make it work tomorrow. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm sorry for that.
And Commissioners, if we run late tomorrow, are we able, just think about it, if you're able to stay a little bit longer. If you can be flexible. I see it comes up. I can. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, Gary, go ahead and continue with what.
I apologize, Commissioners. We had a long consent agenda because last week we didn't have a consent agenda. Thank you for understanding. Okay, we're still on the issues list. You're now meeting again as the Board of County Commissioners. Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities Rulemaking Committee update. Shannon, would you please bring Karen Burig as well? We have Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Karen Burig is about to join. There was a memo in your packet. Dan also added to that. Dan, please go ahead as expeditiously as you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karen and I will do our best to make this as short and sweet as possible, but answer any questions you might have. We are here again to talk about the climate friendly and equitable community rulemaking process. In September of 2021, staff provided background information to the board, and at that time requested the board submit a letter to the Land Conservation and Development Commission asking for more time. We were successful in that ask. Essentially, Rulemaking Committee will be finalizing their part of the process at in January. And I guess I want to make sure we're clear about the players in this discussion. So essentially, you have the Department of Land Conservation and Development that is working to develop the rules. Then those rules will be considered by the Land Conservation and Development Commission. And those public hearings are going to be coming up here shortly, and Karen's going to update you on that. As we move from that rulemaking into these public hearings, there's kind of three things you want to do with you today, one of which is update you on the rulemaking. Secondly, inquire if the BCC wants a broader discussion at a policy session. And then three, share with you a letter that I have proposed to submit on behalf of Clackamas County, similar to other jurisdictions around the region regarding these issues. And I'll discuss that in more detail when we get back to that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen to kind of talk about those two items, basically an update in the rules and then the inquiry about a future policy session.
So good morning, Commissioners. Yes, as Dan said, back in September, we brought this before you and the board did submit a letter which extended out the process that was underway by 2 months. So it gave a little extra time. And in January, just 2 weeks ago, the Rulemaking Committee finalize their work. So I'll take a half a step back. The Rulemaking Committee is really developing rules that are under the Department of Land Conservation and Development's purview that will help reduce climate pollution. So back in, I believe, early 2020, the governor provided direction to all of their different departments to identify ways that they could reduce climate pollution. So this is specifically looking at two things. One, well, first of all, the rules they're looking at impact metropolitan planning organization areas, so MPO areas, the urban areas. And they had two different charges they were really looking at. One was scenario planning. And here in the Portland metropolitan area, we have already completed our scenario planning. That's climate smart communities. So that piece really didn't impact us. But starting this past July, in July of 2021, they began discussing changes to the transportation planning rule. And those changes will impact our jurisdiction as well as other jurisdictions within the Portland metropolitan boundary, within the Portland area. And those changes kind of fall into a couple of different buckets. One is how we use land in centers and the rules around that. They're called climate friendly areas, but our centers. There's also a bucket of rule changes having to do with our how we do our transportation system planning and how we prioritize our projects. And then another bucket has to do with the regulations we have around parking and provision of electric vehicle charging facilities. So there's a lot of different things going on in these rules. So today we're really asking, one, would you like a study session, a policy session to get deeper into these rules? The kind of the timing that we're working with is 2 weeks ago, the rulemaking process ended. LCDC, the Land Conservation and Development Commission, will be receiving an update on these rules just at the end of this week. And so that has to do with the letter that Dan was talking about. The official public hearing process, when the official rules will be brought forward, is the end of March. So between now and the end of March, DLCD is having their legislative review, or their judicial review of the rules. And they should be released, I believe, on March 1st for a public hearing that's at the end of the month. So we were hoping to be able to schedule a policy session with you, probably the first or second week of March, so that if there are places within the hearing process that you would like to provide comments, we would have the ability to do that. That's the quick overview.
So let me touch brief, oh, my apologies, Chair Smith.
Yeah, if you want to do a policy session, if the board wants to do that, whatever, it probably won't be scheduled until March. Dan.
Thank you so much. I want to highlight the one point that Karen brought up, which was we're trying to make space in this discussion should the board wish to ask or be a part of that public hearing process. And that's our intent. So you will also see as a part of your packet, I added it late on Friday, I believe, it's essentially simply a letter to the Land Conservation and Development Commission from myself. I don't usually do this, to be frank, but there are other letters going in from other jurisdictions and their department directors regarding a couple of different things. And these things are near and dear to your heart, which are, one, the need for some clarity around some of these rules. Understanding how these rules will be implemented within the Portland Metro jurisdiction needs to be clarified and coordinated. Second is time. You know, the request for additional time before the rules are adopted to work with DLCD staff to address the practicalities of implementing the proposed rules. The fact that we've identified the need to kind of adjust some of the dates for the implementation to make sure it's going to be implemented, that's successful. And then last but not least, something that's near and dear to all your hearts are financial resources. A discussion around a critical look is needed to see how we access possible funding sources and how that aligns with the expected implementation timelines. These are comments that you've shared with us about a variety of different topics, not only this, but everything else through Clackamas County is to be financially responsible around how we move forward. So If there's questions, comments, concerns about that letter, I'd be glad to hear now, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Paul, your hand is up.
Yeah, well, we as government, you know, certainly make life more complicated as time goes on. And a couple items that are on that one sheet that talk about parking and other things. I have to ask the question and wonder where that intersection between, is this like designed for new development? Or is it designed for, you know, factors that, for example, what we'll be discussing tomorrow with HB 2001 with infill? Is this more suburban type, or is it more metropolitan type? I'm just trying to understand how all the work that we're doing on HB 2001 on phase 2 will be affected by these rules.
So those are great questions, and sometimes we have had similar questions in the sense of how do these rules overlap and interplay with the existing rules. And so we've been involved in some conversations, but making sure all of that is clear. But specifically related to the parking, it would be implemented within the urban growth boundary. So it's in urban areas. It would be about changing what our regulations say about the minimum required parking for any time a new development would come in. But there are also some parts of the rule that talk about redevelopment. So it does get into a fair amount of detail. So it's both about new development and redevelopment when you're talking about the parking.
Okay, well, I got my radar's up on that one because, you know, the built environment is quite different depending on where you are, right? And I think we have some sensitivities in areas where the built environment is very poor, very inadequate. And I wouldn't want to have that compromised from some rule that doesn't recognize those unique situations. So I guess the word flexibility comes to mind. I don't know if that's part of that, but I'd certainly want to make sure that all of our smart staff that are knowledgeable about this recognize that and are advocating for some practical solutions and flexibility where needed.
And I would say that is definitely high on our list and what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it the will of this commission to have a policy session on this issue? The staff has requested it.
I think it would be important to do.
Okay, it sounds like we have Sonia.
I love it that you just know that I have a question. It's amazing. So I don't want to muck anything up, but there is if we're going to have a policy session, one thing that I would really like to understand, Julie Fahey at the talked about how they are going to be taking a look at the land use overall with Senate Bill 100 and what that has to do with our housing supply and just other issues. And I know that this all interrelated. If you look at our land use structure and urban growth boundaries and then how that affects climate and driving and greenhouse gases. And I don't know if it's possible to just give us to include that a little bit, maybe not a lot, but just so that we as policymakers have some grounding in the bigger picture of land use and state.
So Commissioner Fisher, are you asking for an overlay of how Senate Bill 100 affects what we're trying to do moving forward on this subset of land use decisions?
Well, I'm wondering, I guess I'm going to ask my commission if you think it's appropriate. Did other folks attend that with the home builders and the realtors? I think Paul was there. I'm not sure who else participated in that, but
I didn't know about it.
This next legislative session, Representative Fahey's going to be looking at a deeper dive into our overall land use scheme. And that's going to be a big issue, which we should have some input on. So if it's appropriate, I mean, I'm looking at Karen, and just to say, if it's not appropriate, we can do it later. But if we're going to focus on land use and how it affects climate and what these rules are and how they're going to affect local jurisdictions, if it's appropriate, I'm bringing up the issue as something to think about.
I think that an overview and a redo of Senate Bill 100 is really needed. It's really old. I doubt if they can get it done in the short session. Is that what you're saying? The short session, she's going to give it a stab in the long session.
Yeah, this is going to be in the long.
Okay, well, good. I look forward to that, actually. Whether it has anything to do with what we're considering on our policy session, why don't we put that to staff right now? We don't have to make that decision. Staff can decide. Karen and Dan can decide on that, if you don't mind. Commissioner Scholl, your hand is up.
Yes, I note that LCDC's first public hearing to consider draft administrative rules is 31 March. I'm hoping that we can look at this early on so that we can have a strong input on LCDC's first draft. Can we do that?
So I would say our goal is to be able to have that policy session in early March, situated right after they release the rules. So we have the latest information, but before there's an actual hearing.
All right, Karen, thank you.
Correct. The intent is to position this board, should they wish to provide comment, to be able to provide comment, and that's our intention.
Okay. Not necessarily to debate every single little land use nuance, correct? Yeah, so maybe in March, could you remind me of that? Coming forward, thank you. Paul, your hand is up.
Yeah, this is more of a comment, more of a heads up, and that is that I think part of the problem about the legislature doing land use, which I was told 10 years ago, they don't want to do that. We shouldn't do that. We should never do that. And here we are, we're doing it big time. But with that, my concern has been is that as the planners plan, and we talk about these ideal situations where transit, for example, is bountiful, it's everywhere, it's ubiquitous, and yet it's not. And so we have all these designs with the anticipation that transit's nearby, and we just don't have we have not seen the resources come to Clackamas County for that. We are woefully underserved, and many areas with no service whatsoever. So, and then that includes within the UGB. So I just have concerns when we talk about parking, we talk about all those needs, those fundamental needs for people that don't have access to transit. We've got to keep our eye on this, not to debate it today, but to realize that, you know, we don't have the coverage of transit like Portland does. So we need to be mindful of that. There's got to be something in the rules that recognizes that, and there's contingencies built in that give some exceptions and flexibility for areas that are not going to be served.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So I think we have, the board seeks to have a policy session, and Gary will get that scheduled ASAP, probably for March.
Yes.
Yeah, this request has just come in. I didn't know about it, so I think February is probably filled up. According to Emily, that's what she told me. So, okay. There. I think we're done with this session. Thank you very much.
Dan was going to send this letter, and are there any objections to him sending a letter under his signature that reflects all the things you just talked about, Commissioner?
No, and I'm actually glad you're doing it, Dan, with the other jurisdictions. I think that's great.
Great. Thank you so much for the support. We will loop back with you, and it sounds like Commissioner Savas already has his talking points for the hearing, so we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Dan and Karen. Next, excuse me, your business meeting review for this Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, 10 a.m. entirely on Zoom. You'll have all the consent agenda items from today that you authorized to move forward, except for item 6, H3S. We'll take that off. Public communication, commissioner communication. The big item, you'll have a board discussion item on the Hoodland Park District. And this is a point for you to make a decision on what you'd like to do moving forward. So that will be, that's not a public hearing, just a board discussion item. So that will be this Thursday. If you have any questions on any item on the agenda, please let me know, and staff will help you with that before Thursday. Next, advisory boards and commission appointments. Shannon, go ahead, please.
Gary, before Shannon starts on Hoodland Park, that's a decision point for us, correct?
Yes.
I think we can make the decision. And I've, and county council has prepared different motions to bring forward for us to consider. And we'll have a discussion and see what we want to do. Thank you. Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The Aging Services Advisory Council is staffed by Health, Housing, and Human Services, the Social Services Division. They currently have 4 openings on their commission due to resignations. 21 members are allowed with 3-year terms. They have 1 recommendation for you today, Camilla Henderson for her first term. And that is the end of my list.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for
So
approval.
moved.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval of this particular ABC. Commissioner Fisher has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner Savas, I'd asked to talk about supportive housing services funding. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. As you all recall, Commissioner Schrader and I were tasked with the Housing Task Force in trying to identify funds and ramp up the services for supportive housing in regards to our LIP. And I'm pretty familiar with what we had for cash flow and where we might be at a point in time where we are today and going forward for the next month or two. And also recognizing that the funds that we were anticipating from the measure won't really arrive until really, late this fiscal year, May or June. As you all know, we asked, in order to get things going, we asked for a loan from Metro for $5 million, and it was granted, and we assigned that in chunks of $3 million and then $2 million. So that money is spoken for and is committed. We got some ARPA money, I believe, that we put towards that as well. And in anticipation of that, knowing that we were going to do a quarterly report, in the next couple months, it was anticipated that we would ideally have a signed agreement with Metro, and we'd be able to ask for the next batch of money to help ramp up those services. I was working with both Commissioner Schrader and Metro Councilor Christine Lewis. I happened to have a phone conversation with her last week, and this was one of the topics that we discussed. I thanked her and the council for approving the IGA. We approved the IGA, and apparently in the last few days, the other counties have as well. So all 3 counties have signed the IGA. And Metro Councilor Lewis, upon my request, as far as, are we ready to ask for the next $5 million to help ramp up to get things going and moving quicker? And also to fill any gaps should we actually have a shortfall, because again, those supportive housing services haven't come in and there's not enough revenue to make it through the end of the fiscal year. And the answer was yes, ask for it, and I think the agreed upon amount that would be palatable for Metro would be $5 million. And I would just like to message to, first staff, if we approve it, to anticipate that in the finances going forward. And see if my colleagues today are at least want to give a head nod to anticipate doing that, so that staff can plan for that financially, and maybe come back in a couple weeks or so with the paperwork to do just that.
Explain what your ask is again.
To proceed, to start the ball rolling on asking for the next loan of $5 million from Metro for supportive housing services to be repaid by future supportive housing services dollars.
Commissioner Fisher, your hand is up.
So Paul, would it be more accurate to call this an advance? Because we would be paying it back from this year's receipts that we're planned to get this fiscal year?
Yeah, it would be an advance. Thank you for that clarification. It is an advance, and it would be paid for by future supportive housing revenues, whether or not it's this fiscal year's revenues or a combination of this year and next year's, but it would be future revenues.
Yeah, I think it's good that we move forward with this to give staff the ability to, because it's a lot of work planning to get the money out the door. So now's a good time with the request for qualifications that are going out and the expansion. It's a good time. So I would support that.
What's the interest rate? This borrowing this money will cost us. And it will cost us in future services, as the first 5 million does. And we're paying quite a hefty rate. We're paying a pretty high market rate on this money. It's a government to government rate. And I have some angst about that. Paul.
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact rate was, but it was minimal. I think it was forgot that government rate, Gary. It was a LGIP rate or something like that. Again, I just want to clarify that all these monies or the advance are all repaid with supportive housing services dollars, no general fund, no other monies, but simply those funds. So it's by design and it's deliberate.
So Paul,
yes,
I have a question. This is going to bring us up to the full 14 million.
It will definitely help us get there. Yeah, and as you all know, ramping up is not easy. You got to be able to get things in motion. So getting grants, RFPs, staffing, there's a lot of work to that. So the sooner we get going, the quicker we'll be able to get our machine up and running. I don't want to be, we just got to get in front of this.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, just a minute. We have some other people in the, here.
My hand raised for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, Martha. Go ahead.
You mind? Oh, let Gary go first. It's okay. It's okay.
We're looking on the interest rate right now, and I'll answer as soon as I get a text back. May I suggest, commissioners, can we bring, staff was gonna do this anyway. Can we bring back to you an update on how we've spent the SHA supportive housing services money to date, what our financial position is, and that will help guide you on exactly what Commissioner Savas just mentioned, the timing, and that can give you further guidance as you make the decision on moving forward. We can bring that to you as soon as next week.
Okay, Gary. Martha, go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you.
So that's all right. Don't worry. So the other thing I would like to see, Gary, is where we are in the collections. And if it's trending up, remaining flat, or going down. Because again, we've been told we'll get anywhere from 24 to 32 million. I know the bulk of that supposedly won't come into the spring, but I think we really need to get a handle on what that trend's going to be, because that's really going to decide how much further we can go, I think. So
yes, we'll have that.
I have the same concern as Martha does. You know, we've been promised and promised and promised from Metro that we're going to get this money, yet we're anticipating again at the end of the fiscal year in June, and I've read those documents too. And if we don't get it, we're going to incur interest rates. Paul, everybody understands it's not general fund money. Yes, we're paying it back from our SHS dollars, but for the future, that reduces services for the interest that we would pay on those. So, you know, it'll be a board decision. I don't like it. I don't like borrowing money on a promise that we may get or not get. So Gary, you want to bring that back? Can we do that on Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, yes.
Okay.
Great.
All righty.
Commissioner Savas, were you finished on this item? Okay. The final item today, commissioners, is commissioner communications.
Okay, Sonia, your hand's up.
Yeah, so I just had a question, Gary. When you come back to us with that, my understanding, my brain, that an advance is very different than a loan. So could you be prepared to have our finance staff explain to us that difference? And yeah.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Sonia, do you want to go first since you have to leave on commissioner communication?
Oh, thank you. Gosh, I'm not really ready to communicate. I don't think I have any updates.
I don't really.
Let me check my calendar. I'll come back at the.
All right. I just thought maybe you had to go. Martha, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know I had a really good conversation with the Safe Kids Coalition yesterday. I know that we're going to be talking about ARPA dollars tomorrow and not today. I encourage them to listen in. To the best of my ability, I checked in with Martine to see what the framework was, and I communicated that to them as best as I could. I think they feel good about it. I think that obviously, if we could give more money, we would give more money, but I did mention that I think it's a very solid way to disperse the money, the way Martine and Nancy Bush have pulled it together for our nonprofits. And I think that we're going to be able to have a good working relationship with them moving forward as well. I'm continuing to track what's going on at Regional Solutions. There's going to be dollars that are going to be, we hope, given to Regional Solutions for the short session statewide, which is about 40 million. And I had an opportunity to talk with Chris and Trent to see what we could get in the queue. And they came up with some ideas, assuming that we can move it up through our own Regional Solutions group, which is in the metropolitan area. And I serve on that board. So we're coming up with projects. Ironically, one of the projects could potentially be dollars towards the fair, the center, because it's kind of an area where we use it for public emergencies, you know, vaccinations, emergency shelters, things of that sort. But there's a few other things that we're looking at to see. And remember, this is 40 million going statewide, so we're not going to have a lot. But I kind of feel like Clackamas County, it's kind of our turn to potentially at least get some of those regional dollars from that venue. So I want to thank staff for calling it to my attention, and that was Tracy, and that was Chris, and that was Trent. So working on it. So that's what I got so far.
Great, Martha, thank you. Paul, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm gonna run through real fast an update on the tolling situation. Things are moving very swiftly. Things are changing. I want to make sure that you're all up to date. And I'm sure tomorrow will be different. But I'll just kind of give you a run through real quick here. The I-205 conversation is evolving rapidly. Myself and other elected officials from the region have unanswered questions about the toll program, and really it's up to ODOT to really answer those questions thoroughly. We continue to ask ODOT to take a collaborative approach to address our shared concerns, and hopefully they'll comply or help with that. In December, I made a request of the JPAC chair, Councilor Craddock, to pause on the consideration of the two plan amendments, the RTP and the MTIP. We all talked about that before, you remember that, and we thought, even as late as last week, we thought that ODOT was willing to move the clock back until April for a pause. And then it wasn't, I think, only 24 or less hours or so that they changed and went back to their asking to put it back on the agenda for February. So I expect to have a vote on that in February. I don't know, I kind of doubt if there's really the votes to make that happen, but I just want to let you know that what we thought would be delayed, and even Commissioner Schull mentioned that at the MPAC meeting last week, things had changed that rapidly. So that's why I'm compelled to give you an update. This Friday at TPAC, our staff, our DTD staff, will be sharing several requests at ODOT, similar to what I just stated here. And our regional partners seem to be aligned with our adopted value statement. Those requests, including a formal structure and process for the impacted jurisdictions to be part of that diversion study, have asked that tolling I-205 not occur until there's federal approval of the regional tolling. We'll reinforce the request, but again, we don't want Clackamas County to be the guinea pig for the region. I and my staff, or our staff, that is, will continue to update the board as these conversations evolve. But again, I just want to keep you all apprised. It's moving fast, and I want to just big shout out to our staff and everyone else in the region for working together collaboratively on this topic of high interest.
Sonia, your hand is up.
Yeah, Polly, I'm not sure who all participated in the Senator Wyden town hall and then Kurt Schrader's community leader. We have some really strong federal questions that are out there. Has there been any concerted effort to get orchestrate any formal communications from our congressional delegation to the Oregon Department of Transportation?
Well, I would maybe ask Chris Lyons that question and see if, Senator Wyden's staff or other congressional staff are communicating on behalf of, that their congressman or their senator to the OTC or ODOT or the governor, however those channels are. They don't, obviously, as you know, they don't really go through us and back up to the OTC. They would probably go directly. But yeah, I did follow what took place at Senator Wyden's town hall and aware of his position. And I think it rings pretty strong when he's not supportive of, we're all in alignment, I believe. So that's powerful, and we need to get the message out to the OTC. And I'm pretty sure that they know that they're aware of that. But formally, I'll ask Chris Lyons to see if there's actually a formal communication that asserts just that position.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think all we can do, because we are the local government officials and standing up for our constituents through all means is at this point necessary.
Gary, do we have, I guess my question is, do we have any plans for any visits other than the Association of Oregon Counties to the Hill as we go to, this is another question for Chris, as we go to the National Association of Counties Conference? Usually we have a day with our federal folks where we actually get to come up with a list of issues. So is that something?
Public and Government Affairs has been working on a potential visit outreach schedule for you and has been working with our staff. So more to come on that.
Okay, and I would just like to know the dates that they're planning on, because I'm actually going to head to Boston for a few days after NACO. So
And when is that date for NACO, Martha?
it's the 11th through the 16th.
Oh, February?
Yeah. And I'm scheduled to go out the 11th. I know I'm chairing the CEWD committee. I need to know if we're doing visits to the delegation on the 15th or 16th. That's kind of what I need. Just a date. So
that's fine.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, you're up.
Yes, good morning. I want to thank Evan Polk from the Clackamas County Sustainability and Solid Waste Program for an outstanding briefing last week on waste management issues. One of the things that came up was the growing problem of trash we see around the county on our roads and public spaces. I'll talk more on Thursday at the business meeting on points of contact and places people can call to get things picked up. But one of the other things that I wanted to bring to your attention was the Metro Regional Refresh Program, which has dollars for waste cleanup, and the potential for using those dollars or requesting those dollars for abandoned RV cleanup. So I'll talk to you more about that on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay, to piggyback on what some other folks have said, Martha, in the meeting with Representative Schrader, I mentioned more help on our broadband expansion and said that we've committed 10 million of ARPA funds. And he says it was great to hear that. I made the case for more. He said there was $100 million coming to Oregon, additional. Trent and Nancy Bush has since confirmed that, and they narrowed it down. So let's, when you go back there, if it, I don't know if you want to lobby Representative Schrader or not, but let's try to solidify some of that 100 million for Clackamas County for our continued expansion of broadband. I explained how our program worked, and he liked the idea. And I said, at the time of COVID, when we told everybody to go home and work, and then the kids were home from school, our systems were overloaded and they couldn't have it. They didn't have access. And that's very shame. And he was, all for that. So maybe somebody could make the play for that. That's all I have to say today. Thank you, commissioners. We've had some very good sessions today. Appreciate your input. We'll see you tomorrow.